Today is Juneteenth. That marks the day in 1865 that word of the Emancipation Proclamation finally reached enslaved people in Texas, the most remote state that was part of the former Confederacy. Folks in Brewer braved the heat today to celebrate the holiday. Grace Bradley takes us there.
Be strong. We're not here to play, to dream, to drift. We have hard work to do.
Despite gaining national recognition in 2021, the city of Brewer has been celebrating Juneteenth at Joshua Chamberlain Freedom Park for over a decade.
Today, my dear, was rich and lovely beyond vocal expression. That's how powerful it was.
Now living in New Jersey, Maine Human Rights Coalition founder, 90-year-old James Varner, makes it a point to return to the city to celebrate Juneteenth every year.
I think that Mr. Varner has such incredible energy and so much information, just a wealth of information of history that he brings forward to the now. And I think that that's part of what's so important in celebrating Juneteenth is why is it important?
300 years of slavery in this country, where people like me were ripped from the bowels of Africa, put in hellish holes of ships and taken on long voyages. I know they were painful. Coming to these shores and being on a slave market where they separated husbands, wives from their children, treated them like animals, less than human beings like you.
From walking with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during the Civil Rights Movement to directly contributing to Brewer, Varner leads with love, unity, and action.
I was on the committee that raised some $20,000 to put that statue down there of the slave coming up out of the ground with the help of the city of Brewer. It can only happen if you make it happen. Take my hand in love. Love you.
Grace Bradley, WABI TV 5 News, Brewer.